Hi students. In the previous lessons, we've studied so much about the human eye and the colorful world. In this chapter, let's summarize, what all we have learnt about the human eye and the colorful world. In one go, we will revise the last 6 lessons in this chapter as part of this summary. Understood? The first thing we studied in this chapter was about the human eye. We studied the different parts of the eye. We understood, for example, that light first enters the eye through a layer called the cornea. Then light passes through a certain lens placed inside the eye. This lens here. The cornea and the lens help the light to get refracted. Then this light forms an image at a portion behind the eye called the retina. No matter what, the image is always formed on the retina. There are some other parts of the eye that we studied. The pupil, for example, regulates the amount of light entering the eye. The optic nerve carries electric signals from the retina to the brain, and the iris regulates the opening and closing of the pupil. Aqueous humor and vitreous humor are liquids which provide pressure inside the eye. Ciliary muscles help in the thickening and the expanding of the lens, because the lens becomes thick and thin to make sure that the image is always formed on the retina. We learnt that the lens can become thick and thin depending on where the object is placed. In the case of an eye, the focal length varies but the image distance is constant. When you bring the object closer to the eye, the lens becomes thicker. Farther from the eye, the lens is thinner. The nearest point of clear vision for the eye is 25 centimeters. The far point, of course, is infinity. So the eye can see up till infinite distance. We learned that we have two eyes instead of one eye because the brain combines the image sent by the left eye and the image sent by the right eye into one single image so that we can get a 3D perspective on things. This combination of images by the brain is called stereopsis. This is what we studied. We then learnt about the defects of the eye. We learnt about myopia or nearsightedness, in which people can't see far off objects. The reason is that far off light, that is light coming from infinity, converges before the retina in the case of myopic eyes. Understood? This can happen because of excessive curvature of the lens or an elongated eyeball. The solution for myopia that we saw was adding a concave lens. A concave lens diverges the light, makes the rays go further apart from each other so that they meet on the retina. You can also say that the convex lens forms an image of infinity at the far point of a myopic eye. Understood? The far point is that point for the myopic eye from which the rays after refraction through the eye lens meet at the retina. So the concave lens forms an image of infinity at the far point of the myopic eye. The next defect we studied was hypermetropia, in which people can't see nearby objects. In this case, the light converges behind the retina. This again happens because of less curvature of the eye lens or a small eyeball. The correction is adding a convex lens. The convex lens forms an image of the near point of a normal eye, that is 25 centimeters, at the near point of a hypermetropic eye. Understood? The near point of a hypermetropic eye is greater than the near point of a normal eye. So the convex lens forms an image of the near point of a normal eye at the near point of a hypermetropic eye. After learning about these defects, we learnt about presbyopia. Presbyopia happens when the ciliary muscles weaken and the lens cannot become thicker and the lens cannot become thinner either. So this happens in old age. The power of accommodation of the lens is its power to become thicker or thinner so that the image is formed on the retina. This power of accommodation decreases in presbyopia. The ciliary muscles become weak. After learning so much about the eye, we learnt about refraction through a prism. We learnt that this is a prism, a body with a triangular base. This angle BAC is the angle of the prism. The ray falling on the prism is the incident ray. It forms an angle of incidence with the normal at the point where it strikes AB. The light that gets refracted at the first interface is the refracted ray. The light that again gets refracted is called the emergent ray. Incident ray, refracted ray, and emergent ray. Angle I here is called the angle of incidence. Angle R is the angle of refraction, and angle E is the angle of emergence. So these were the terms we learnt related to the refraction through a prism. The net angle between the incident ray and the emergent ray is called the angle of deviation. We then went on and learnt about the dispersion of light through a glass prism. We learnt that when a thin beam of light is focused on a glass prism placed in a dark room, it splits up into 7 colors. Red. These 7 colors can be learnt by using the abbreviation VIBGYOR: violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. As you can see, red is always at the top and violet is at the bottom. This splitting up of light is called dispersion, and this band of 7 colors is called spectrum. Splitting happens because red light gets refracted the least and violet light gets refracted the most. White light consists of 7 colors, and out of these colors red light gets refracted the least and violet light the most, and therefore different colors of light bend differently after refraction. This leads to the splitting up of light, as different colors bend by different angles and get refracted differently. We learned that a rainbow is also formed because of the same principle. In the case of a rainbow, the prism is replaced by a raindrop. Sunlight strikes the raindrop and the light gets refracted inside the raindrop. Then the light undergoes a reflection inside the raindrop, and then it undergoes another refraction, and therefore we see 7 colors. Of course, I have represented only 3 colors here. There are 2 refractions and 1 internal reflection in a raindrop, but the phenomenon is the same. Light splits up into 7 colors, just as in the case of a prism. After learning about all these phenomena, we learnt about atmospheric refraction. We learnt that objects behind smoke appear to be moving. This happens because the refractive index of the smoke keeps on changing as it is moving. Also, the refractive index of hot air is less than that of cold air, and therefore the objects also appear at a different position. Light reaches us after refraction, and that is when we see the object. And this light reaches us at different angles, and that is why we see the objects moving behind the smoke. This phenomenon is responsible for the twinkling of stars. The light from the stars bends before it reaches us as it passes through the atmosphere and gets refracted through it. The atmosphere has a variable refractive index, and so the light does not just bend once, it keeps on bending constantly. This is the image of the star that we see. Since the atmosphere is in constant motion, therefore we see the star twinkling. That is because the position of the image of the star keeps on changing as the atmosphere keeps on moving, and therefore we see the twinkling of stars. Planets do not twinkle because they are not seen as point objects, but they are seen as rigid objects. So though the different position of points on the planet changes, and so different points move inside the planet, but overall the entire position of the planet remains the same. Just the position of points on the planet gets interchanged. The next thing we learned was why the sun appears to rise earlier than the actual sunrise, and why it appears to set sometime later after the actual sunset. The sun appears to rise earlier because even when it hasn't risen, the light from the sun bends, and we see an image of the sun on the horizon. When the upper part of the sun rises above the horizon, that is when the sun rises. But we see the upper part of the sun coming at the horizon before the sun has come to the horizon because of atmospheric refraction. The light from the sun bends and we see an image of the sun at the horizon. The same things happen during sunset. When the sun has set and some time has passed after the sun has set, that is when we see the image of the sun at the horizon, again because of atmospheric refraction. We also learnt about the scattering of light. Scattering of light is basically the random reflection of light when it touches different molecules, like molecules of air and dust particles. The Tyndall effect is the scattering of light by colloidal particles. It is the reason for the mist and smoke in forests. The sky is also blue because of the scattering of light. White light strikes air molecules, but air molecules scatter only blue light, and the rest of the light passes undeviated. Therefore, the sky appears blue because blue light is scattered. On the other hand, we also learnt why the sun appears red during sunrise and sunset. This happens because the light from the sun is white, but the blue light gets scattered, by the time the light reaches our eyes, and only red light is able to reach our eyes because red light gets scattered the least. Also, the distance of the sun from us is the most during sunrise and sunset, so maximum scattering of blue light occurs and only red light reaches us. On the other hand, during noon time, the scattering is very less because the sun is much nearer to us, and therefore white light reaches us and the sun appears whitish because hardly any blue light gets scattered. After learning about these phenomena, we performed an experiment. In this experiment, we placed some sodium thiosulfate water and concentrated sulfuric acid on the path of some light. This solution produced sulfur particles which scattered the blue light present in the white light. Therefore, the final light that reached our screen was red light. This is similar to what happens during sunrise and sunset. Blue light gets scattered and red light reaches the screen. So there you go. These were the important things that we learnt in this entire series of chapters. Hope you understood the human eye and the colorful world. Let's proceed to the next chapter now.